Thank you, Mr. Chair. Doctor, you testified a while ago that the precursor chemicals to create fentanyl were being sent to Mexico from China. Is that what I understood you to say?
Yes, Congressman.
So who in China is supplying these chemicals to the cartels in Mexico? Is it the Chinese government? Is it Chinese corporation? Is it Chinese cartels? Who in China is providing these drugs?
Thank you, Congressman, for that question. There are Chinese chemical companies that often work with brokers, both on the China side and the cartel side, and accountants that ship those things. So it oftentimes is these chemical companies that are doing it. They could be in illicit business doing illicit work, or they could just be in illicit business, period.
So I'm not sure I understood your answer. Is it legal for these chemical companies to provide these chemicals to Mexican drug cartels?
That's a great question, Congressman. Here's the thing. If someone just asks you for a ton of certain chemical that's precursor for dual use, and that company doesn't check out who that is, and it's going through a broker, which is a questionable background, then obviously it's not for any good purpose, as opposed to the legal pieces of it. Are they just ignoring that? Absolutely. Many times that they are ignoring. Even legitimate companies are ignoring that.
What is this administration doing to prevent those companies from selling drugs that you say are illicit?
Broadly, 2 or 3 things. I'll be quick about it. First, we have more sanctions that are being placed on these companies every single day. We've got about 100 sanctions so far overall between Chinese and traffickers, Mexican traffickers. We put a global coalition together that is talking about precursors for the entire globe, not just, and we're watching China to put pressure. We've asked China that here's the 3 things you can do. Very specific ask. Know your customer for these companies. Make sure you have shipping labels that follow global norms. And then,
so Doctor, in the interest of time, I'm gonna jump forward just a little bit. So, the administration, you're saying hundreds of sanctions are being put in place. It seems to me like you only need 1 sanction. So what is this administration doing in China to prevent these drugs from going to Mexico?
we are working constantly. Our ambassador, Nick Burns, in Beijing, I'm in contact with him regularly to speak with the Chinese about this. We're working with the government of Mexico to make sure that they are talking to China as well. We're putting international pressure on
So when do we stop talking? When does something become actionable that where the United States, where this administration can put its foot down inside of China and say, we've had enough. You are killing Americans through Mexican cartels. When do we hold China accountable?
Congressman, first of all, we will work with you if you have any ideas. We are working here. I'd be happy to both share that with you. Some of those will be in the briefing, classified briefing that we're giving on Monday.
All right. I feel like you dodged the question. And it seems to me that we also have to cut off the source at several different places. We've talked about reducing demand. We all agree. It would be great if folks didn't feel better as they take these drugs. We've talked about the border, which, quite frankly, we've got evidence from many folks that is not being secure. I believe we also need to cut off the supply of these chemicals from China. I believe this administration, I believe you, have to have the courage to go to China and say enough is enough. This is a multidimensional problem, and that's one that I see is not being adequately addressed. In my last few seconds, I'd just like to say that I heard you imply to another member in questioning earlier that the fact that we're capturing more fentanyl than ever before is somehow a success story. I'm not sure that I can agree with that. I'm looking at the deaths, the fentanyl deaths over the last 5 years, ending January 2019, 68,000, and then you told us a while ago that ending January 2023, we had 109,000 deaths. I don't know how we can say that is a success, particularly if you're a family member of someone who died with a fentanyl overdose. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield.